Would like to say thank you to all of you who have come recently to the guitar videos that I've posted and left all the nice comments. I do appreciate it. Some of you have asked, Florida Maquis, why don't you just become a musician on YouTube? Why don't you just sing and play and write? Well, I tried. In fact, it was the very first thing I tried on YouTube years ago, and it went nowhere. Also, even many years before that, I moved to Nashville. And I tried there as well, and had no success. You see, at the time in Nashville, I just didn't have the look or the sound that was going to make them money. They didn't care about art. They didn't care about diversity. They just wanted people that looked and sounded like them. And it was a financial decision. It wasn't personal. Some people that I had played for and played around said, "You got really great stuff, but it's never going to make it to radio." And they were right. When you listen to country music radio today, nothing I sing or write or play sounds anything remotely like it. But in today's video, it does bring up an interesting discussion about Florida versus other parts of the world. You see, there's country music in Florida. In fact, some of the greatest country music acts have actually come out of Florida before, quote-unquote, Florida-Georgia line. There was this duo you may have heard of called the Bellamy Brothers. And if you look at the list here on the left, it's pretty much an anthology of some of the greatest country music that's ever been recorded. And if you really want a great song to listen to, especially for recent events, find You Ain't Just Whistlin' Dixie by the Bellamy Brothers. It's not one of their more popular ones. Most people have heard Redneck Girl and Let Your Love Flow and Sugar Daddy and all these. Listen to You Ain't Just Whistlin' Dixie, and that'll give you a real deep dive into who these guys are. You see, Florida is known for, of course, oranges and beaches and sunshine and Disney and all this kind of stuff. But did you know that today the vast majority of the orange juice on the shelf doesn't come from Florida? It comes from Brazil. That's right. You see, Florida and Brazil are very much alike. There's some differences for sure. They're 10 times larger than we are. We share a lot of the same values, but there are differences. Much like Florida and Tennessee, both are the South. They both have country music, but two very different places. It does show that, however, even when you have two places that have fundamental differences, when you can find the things that you have in common, you can lift each other up and be allies. Here's another great example, something I think that would surprise a lot of people. Quote from the president of Brazil: "Everybody has to buy a rifle, damn it." Brazilian President Bolsonaro tells his supporters 28 August 2021. "Armed people will never be enslaved." Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro, who is trailing in polls for the 2022 election, told a crowd of his supporters in the capital Brasilia, urging everyone to get a rifle as soon as possible. One group of Brazilians who have been increasingly happy with Bolsonaro since he took office in 2019 are gun enthusiasts, whom he once again addressed on Friday. "Everybody has to buy a rifle, damn it. Armed people will never be enslaved." He acknowledged that weapons do cost a lot, but insisted that those who oppose should stop nagging people who want and can afford them. And he's loosened a lot of the restrictions. The president's latest initiative in February allowed Brazilian citizens to own up to 6 guns and stripped back federal police and army oversight of firearms ownership. Those with hunting licenses are now free to buy 30 guns, while sports shooters can have as many as 60. You see, this is something that Florida and Brazil have in common. You see, we're not upset that Brazil now makes most of the orange juice. In fact, that's a wonderful thing. It's absolutely a wonderful thing. We're glad that, they are finding their roots in freedom and liberty and democracy and business. And by the way, if you haven't eaten at a Brazilian steakhouse, this is Texas to Brazil. There's also Fogo de Chao. You haven't lived. Now, we're going to show another example of this, and this is one that might actually make you scratch your head. Last night, Nicole Arbor, she's a comedian and a model and an actress, put up a quick reel, pardon me, on her Instagram account, taking to task people from Australia who were DMing her, direct messaging her, asking her to go to bat for them on their behalf because she has a lot of followers, she has a lot of reach. You see, the people in Australia gave up their guns. And they laughed at America, and they derided America, and they castigated America for being this horribly backward, savage nation that just allows people to own guns and all this kind of stuff. Well, now they're being enslaved by their government because they gave up their guns, and she called them out for this. You see, the Australians were labeling all America like America labels Florida man. Let me say that again. The Australians used to label Americans savages and heathens because of our not banning guns. Well, now they're regretting that. And now instead of standing up for themselves, they went and found somebody with a blue check mark to stand up for them, not seeing that it's a symptom of the same problem, the one that allowed them to just hand over their guns to the government so willy-nilly and willingly, now is coming back to bite them, and she called them out for this. Now you're like, oh great, Makib, that, we understand that. What does that have to do with anything? Well, guess what? Patriot Nurse just opened up a new channel, Patriot Nurse, The Patriot Nurse, all one word, The Patriot Nurse, all one word, B, the letter, channel. And her first video was called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, Bedtime Rifle Presentations. Now, you probably wouldn't see the Patriot Nurse in her videos and Nicole Arbor as being anything remotely related, but they are. They actually both live in Tennessee, different parts, I believe. And they both value the idea of having a personal weapon to defend themselves. They're not going to wait on government to do it. See, she's originally from Canada, and she lives here now. And she absolutely loathes what's going on with Trudeau and Canada and in Australia. And like I said, Patriot Nurse, Nicole Arbor, you would think, wow, these are two very different, diametrically opposed people. They're exactly the same. They're just going about putting out the same message in a different way. Putting out the same message in a different way. Kind of like when I went to Nashville, I had the idea that I could sing and write and record country music, but not in the way that they liked or they thought would make money. Even though the Bellamy brothers were from Florida, they weren't from Tennessee, and they're greatest. So was Sawyer Brown. So have been many others. So it's a cautionary tale, basically, that just because people aren't exactly like you, don't think that they can't be allies. And once again, if you haven't eaten at a Brazilian restaurant, you are missing out. I personally try to choose the Greenwise label because it's all here in Florida, and they have orange juice too, but it's not because I have anything against Brazil. Brazil and the United States have a lot in common. They absolutely do. And, I show an image like this and some people get their nose bent out of shape. It's something else that Florida and Brazil have in common. We appreciate, beautiful women and beaches. and bikinis, end of the world, right? But something else, too. We're both Christian republics. I wonder if BLM has any designs on tearing down this statue, and I wonder how the Brazilians would react if BLM had decided that they saw this statue as just not in keeping with progressive values and decided that they wanted to take down Christ the Redeemer in Brazil. I wonder how the Brazilians would react to that. Probably not as compliant as North Americans have been to having their historical statues taken down. See, these are the questions we need to be asking ourselves now going into the 21st century. Who really can we count on? Who are our allies? Who can we stand with? Even though they may be a little different, even though they may speak a different language. Maybe they initially don't seem like they're the same person, but when you listen to values, and you put everything else aside, you'll start to see something. The president of Brazil and the governor of Florida stand side by side, literally saying the same thing, both former military. Both former military types. And Bolsonaro will fight. If they try to cheat down there and push him out of office, he will fight, and so will his supporters. He has almost the entire military on his side. And he's encouraging his people to arm up to defend their rights. Oh, that we would have a president that would do that here. I know this is kind of a long road to go, but looking back now, I don't necessarily hold anything against Nashville. At the time, I left this city with a very bitter taste in my mouth about the music industry and about the people that were in charge. But I do understand that for them, it was all about who can put the Benjamins in the bank account. And that's all it was about. So do understand that when you hear things on the radio like, gosh, this all sounds the same, it's so terrible. If it was so terrible, they wouldn't be, it wasn't making money, they wouldn't be playing it. So I will leave it there. But big shout outs to Nicole Arbor, Patriot Nurse, the Bellamy Brothers, if you're out there listening. My favorite by far. Country band. Listen to this stuff all the time. Once again, you ain't just whistling Dixie. One of my favorites. One of my absolute favorites. There's some lyrics in there that everyone needs to hear. So, anyway, I will leave it there. Once again, thank you again for the nice comments on the music. I recorded, probably a dozen and a half covers there on my channel. If you go find the playlist that says, I think it says guitar covers, you'll find a lot more from all different genres. So anyway, I'll leave it there. God bless. Have a happy weekend. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys tonight on Twitch.